All right, so I'm back again with another market report. So I guess I just want to touch on that. The last video I made, I had kind of talked about a downward trend in the market, and I was kind of referring more to the overall comic market in general, not so much foreign specifically. But in my experience, because I did have a couple people reach out to me saying that they didn't agree with that, which is fine. We're still seeing record sales for foreigns all the time, but that's because majority of foreign comics are pretty undervalued as it is. But yeah, so that was more of a reference to the total comic market in general. But in my personal experience, I feel like even the foreigns are getting hit pretty hard, and I've put books up that I could have sold last year for $30, $50, $75, $100, and even only asking $25, $30, $40, $50 for those books, they're not selling. So I think people, the economy is just hurting a lot of people right now. With everything being so expensive, comics are probably the last thing on people's minds. But not to say that these books are going to be worthless or not sought after. It's just I think it's just kind of a just a kind of hiccup in the market in general, and that includes the stock market, crypto, all that stuff, but collectibles as well, and foreigns are part of that. So we'll start with this Giant Size X-Men 1 from Spain. This is the first time they printed it. I'm pretty sure this one had the poster inside. Otherwise, I don't think it would sold for this price. But this is it was a pretty good price for this book. These were selling for a long time, right around $100, maybe $125. So this is kind of the higher end of what I've seen them sell for. So that was a good sale for that book. And I check every day, and these have completely seems like totally dried up in Spain. I haven't seen one come to market in quite a while. So definitely one to kind of get before it's just totally probably gone. So $150, not a bad deal. This one was kind of confusing to me. I'm not sure why it didn't sell for more than $50. It was a low grade book, but $50 is this seller lost money more than likely, because these normally don't sell for less than $40-$50 on the Spanish market plus shipping to the United States. And I believe this was an American seller. So this, I'm not sure what happened here. I've seen these sell for a couple $100. So this was definitely a low sale. And both of those were auctions. And I would definitely be very cautious about doing auctions right now. I've seen a lot of good books go pretty cheap. Granted, the majority of the auctions you see, I'm also seeing the highest sales. So it's just a gamble. Your best bet right now is probably just to put a buy it now that's kind of higher than you expect it to sell for, and just take offers on it. But that would be my advice. That's what I would do. I'm not selling on eBay right now, but if I was, that's the route I'd be going. So this was a first appearance of Juggernaut, a Yaffa. This went cheaper than I thought it would, because these Yaffas are really hard to find books. Sold for about $60 with 11 bids. I'm not exactly sure if this is a digest size or a oversized, because the Yaffas they printed them both ways. I'm thinking this might have been digest, because I think they might have printed this oversized, but it wasn't in 1980. I think it was earlier. My X-Men 1 Yaffa says it was printed in 1977, so I don't think it took them 3 years to get to number 4. But who knows? I could be wrong. Fantastic Four number 1. This is the trade paperback version. Someone bought it at $99. Not a bad deal. These kind of have trended in the $50 to $100 range for the last 5 years. So there just hasn't really been much growth on this book in particular. But still not an easy book to find. All these Greek books tend to be difficult. I prefer the single issue. For whatever reason, the collected issues that, from my experience, seem to come up for sale more often, even though from what we hear they're considered more rare in the Greek market. I've seen way more of the trade paperback collected issues come through than I have of the single issues. But this one does have number 1 in it, and it has number 5. So you have, some pretty big keys in there. You've got the first appearance of Doctor Doom, and you've got the first appearance of the Fantastic Four. I thought this was a pretty low sale, a 9.8. This is the Spiderman 300. This was a reprint, printed, I think, in the 2000s, but they're really pretty books, and a 9.8 on a Mexican book is pretty difficult. So I kind of expected this to go for more, but, the market right now, you just kind of never know what you're going to get. I've seen these sell for $100 alone raw, so for a 9.8, you definitely would have thought this would have gone higher than $146. This is the Australian price variant, New Mutants 98, 9.2. It's a pretty high grade for a rare book. Sold for $1,424 with 40 bids. So a lot of people are after these Australian price variants, and for good reason, because they are quite difficult to find. This is one that I was intended to bid on, and I didn't, unfortunately. This is a book I've been looking for a while. Batman Superman 4, the German edition, is a Michael Turner Supergirl cover. This was the first time this image was used on a cover. I know they redid it, an American, San Diego Comic-Con variant with this cover with a different background, and this one is from, I think, quite a few years ago, early 2010, 2014, somewhere in that range. But $460, it's a pretty solid sale. I think these graded I've seen sell in the $1,200 range. So, not a bad book. So a pretty big drop in these. And at one point these were selling for $300, around there. This is the Venom 3 La Mole from Mexico. And $66. That's pretty cheap. And I think these were, selling for higher than that when they first came out. So those are definitely on the downward trend, it seems like. This was a higher sale than I had thought it would go for. I was watching this one, $160 on this Dutch 194, and look, not in great shape. But the colors on these things are just crazy. It's almost like a negative image. And they're all like that. This isn't like a printing error. Every one of these has this crazy color on it, and it's only this issue, so I'm not sure what happened at the publisher, that they use these crazy colors, if they intended to make it like this or not. But this is the highest I've ever seen one sell for, and they come up for sale every so often, but it definitely seems fewer and far between now. So yeah, if you were able to pick one of these up, for $30-$40 a couple years ago, you're doing pretty good. This was a pretty high sale, Silver Surfer number 3. It did have the poster in it, first appearance of Mephisto, crazy color changes on it. It's a great looking book. I've got one of these. It's totally different than the American book. Almost makes it look like it's underwater, the colors they used. But great looking book, fun book. And we were seeing a ton of Newtons come to market, and they've kind of dried up again. I do know that a few more got posted this past week, but they're all really low grade. So yeah, that flood of Newtons, might kind of be dwindling now. So yeah, Newtons have always been extremely hard to find, and then all of a sudden, from what I hear, someone bought a collection of 700 Newtons in Australia, and that's kind of what caused the flood of them all coming to eBay. So I'm not sure if they're kind of selling through those or what's going on, but they're starting to slow down, it seems now. Edge of Spider-Verse 2 from Mexico, $93. Again, this book's kind of up and down, as low as $60, $70, and as high as $200-$300. So it's just kind of one I just keep an eye on. So these are just some Brazilian books that, that Superboy sold for as high as $50 once, and then now it's back down to $19. The seller just keeps finding them and selling them. So, it's he's kind of flooding the market with this book, but hey, he gets a buyer every time. So he's selling volume more so than just trying to get the top dollar. And here's some more books from the same seller. That's really cheap for the Darth Vader 3. Those for a long time were selling for $50 plus. And then the $40, not a bad deal for that ASM 101. I think that's the second time it was printed in Brazil. So this kind of shows you how the market changes. So this one, in my last market report, this same exact seller was able to sell for almost $100, and this time, and it looks like a lower grade copy, but this time it only sold for $14. You know, so it's just kind of luck of the draw, who's watching your sales, and you know, you can only sell the same book so many times until the prices are going to start to go down. Thought this was interesting. Sheena from Brazil, a 5.0. Looks like probably an original art cover. I'm not too sure, but sold for almost $400. So you know, seems like a pretty strong sale for kind of an obscure book. And we got more Brazilians selling for pretty cheap. So $26. That's the third time that ASM 101 was printed in Brazil. And then you've got Hulk 340, sold for $15, so that was very cheap as well. ASM 50 from Mexico, the Novedades edition, for $89. These are great looking books. You know, I love the blue rather than the red on the cover. I do intend to buy one of these someday. I just haven't gotten one at the price I wanted at. But yeah, they're beautiful books, and you know, the variety is what makes it cool. So this was actually, I think, a pretty inexpensive sale, because this book was pretty high grade, it looked like. This was a ASM 1 Novedades, the original. There is a reprint of this from, I think, 93 or 96. But this is the original from the 80s. And they kind of used the splash page as the cover, and sold for $450 with one bid. And I've seen sellers try to get up to almost $1,000 for these, and you know, around $500 in low grade. So this was a good deal, I think. You know, these are pretty sought after books. Did that one already. So this is a 9.8 La Mole with a sketch on the cover, it looks like. Ultimate Fallout 4, sold for $770. So that was a very strong sale for that one. Wolverine 13, number 1, J. Scott Campbell, La Mole. It's $174. That looks like that's a strong sale for that one as well. I've seen those sell more in like the $60 to $75 range, but this does look like, yeah, from what I can tell from this picture, almost a flawless copy. Some more La Moles, $66 on the Knoll. We talked about that one, and then $187 on the Ultimate Fallout 4. So that has dropped some. That was selling for about $300, you know, just about a month or two ago. Here's some German books, $29 for Spiderman 13 and $49 for ASM 101. Both of those seem pretty cheap, because these books are, you know, from the 70s, you know, kind of older than some of the other copies that, you know, we see, and both of these, I believe, are first prints. Actually, no, the German, and there was an earlier ASM 101 in Germany from Hit Comics, but that's the first time that Mysterio cover was used in Germany, I'm pretty sure. I thought this was pretty cool. It's like a lot of Mexican books. Marilyn Monroe cover, looks like a magazine cover, and then like a romance book, probably both pretty old. Sold for $115. I'm not exactly sure why this book sold for so much. It says first Alan Moore, Captain Britain, so I guess that's why. But Superheroes 387 from Marvel UK. So it seems like a real strong price on that book. I don't know anything about it, but just figured I'd report the sale. This one, I'm not really sure why it sold for so much either. $110, just a bunch of, or what is it, 3 issues of the Avengers from the UK. There's like the magazine size book. There was no keys really in this lot, besides I get this first appearance of Immortus, but and I think actually, sorry, I think the Kang issue was in there as well, but still a solid price. Hulk 181, the UK version, 2 parts of the story, sold for $600. So it's a good price. Solid, and that's a solid price. These have just been trending upwards, so I think that's the highest sale I've seen in a little while. I know I've seen some for like $300 to $400, so $600. Those definitely a good sale. This one was pretty cheap. ASM 129 sold for almost $50. It's hard to tell what the spine's looking like in this picture, but yeah, these always have really beat up spines. So this one doesn't look too bad. So it seems pretty cheap for, I think, one of the cooler ASM 129s that you can get. This was definitely not a good deal for this seller. Incredible Hulk 180, a 4.0. They only sold for $54. So I said it's a gamble, especially if it's in a slab. I mean, don't gamble trying to put it at an auction. Just ask a high price and let it just sit there for a little while. Because this guy lost a good amount of money. I would think $54. That's cheaper than it cost to slab the magazine, and it probably took a year for this magazine to get slabbed. Not Teen Titans. This is the Titans 1, which was basically the Avengers #1. This says it was signed by Stan Lee. I think it was on the interior page, but that sold for $100. And I thought this was kind of crazy. This is the Steranko Hulk annual cover, but it included a patch that's the same size as the magazine-sized comic from the UK. So I don't know what, I guess you put that on the back of a jacket or something like that, but pretty cool. Sold for almost $500. Dracula Lives #4, which uses the Dracula 1 cover, $3.67. So that was obviously a steal. Somebody got very happy to get that book. This is a She-Venom unique cover that was only used in the UK. I really don't know much about this book, but it seems to be a strong seller. Sold for almost $75. Here's a Incredible Hulk 181 from the UK that went cheap, $178. So you can see the big range. In prices. I think probably the issue was that it says Incredible Hulk #.181, so they did that as all as one word basically. So that might have thrown off the search, search parameters there for that one. So maybe not enough people saw it, but actually that was a buy it now. So they just asked too cheap of a price. This book was the Avengers 5, first appearance of Kang. Sold for less than $14. I didn't even bother looking it up because it was super cheap no matter what. Conan, #1 from the UK, super cheap as well, $12.29. These do have a centerfold poster, so you gotta keep an eye out for those. Star Wars Weekly, #1 from the UK, $33. It's pretty cheap. Marvel Superheroes 366, which is the first appearance of Havoc, super cheap, $1.22. Incredible Hulk 1, this is like a pocket-sized book from the UK, sold for $90, which is a pretty strong price for that book, I think. They weren't super hard to find, but with that cover and those colors, I'm sure it's going to be a popular book to have. So Spiderman Comics Weekly 44. This is ASM 50, magazine sized, sold for almost $40. This is the Crow complete set 1 through 4. First edition, sold for $200 for the whole set. This is a pretty strong sale. This is the German reprint of the non-canon ASM 128, the Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy wedding. This was made by like some German super fans that created this book, and I believe they got probably a cease and desist order from the artist Jose Luis Duran, because he was trying to do his own version of it, that reprinted it in, I think, Spanish and English. And so not too many of these made it out of Germany. Quite a few people from the Foreign Comic Collectors Facebook group ordered them, and they've sold for a decent amount ever since they were released. And he was selling them originally for $8 a piece, and pretty much right away there was a demand for them. So solid sale for $120. This is just a Golden Age romance book, sold for $40. Don't know much about it. So I just thought this was kind of something interesting to take a look at. So these are, and there's millions of different versions of these books. There's just Mexican original porn stories, basically, and they sell like hotcakes. I'm not sure who's buying them. Some of the art's pretty awesome, but they're just funny to look at, and they seem to be strong sellers. $40, $80. And you can just look at them. They get listed on eBay and they're gone. So pretty interesting. I'm not sure who's buying them, but they're selling like hotcakes. ASM 14 5.5 La Prensa Mexican edition from the 60s, sold for $1,075. That's a pretty strong sale. Great book. Classic first appearance of Green Goblin. So definitely an important book. So good sale in my opinion. Callie-Man 301. This is when Callie-Man goes up against Galactus. The interior story has nothing to do with the cover. There's nothing involving Galactus on the interior, so it's kind of weird. But $115, that was definitely a strong sale for that book. I have one of these, and for $115, I would definitely consider selling it, because it's a cool book. But these books were actually reprinted in Mexico, but the originals were printed in the 70s in Colombia. So these from Mexico were actually printed, I think, either in the late 90s or early 2000s. So I would consider them more of a reprint. And first time they're printed in Mexico, but yeah, pretty cool books nonetheless. So this is a book I bought. This is a Kung Fu Shang-Chi story. The interior story is, I paid $25 for it. But the interior story is licensed by Marvel, but it has naked women doing a seance, trying to invoke Satan. So pretty crazy stuff for a Marvel licensed book to have printed in 1974, and there's like fully nude women inside. So check out my Instagram. I put some interior pictures. Kind of a fun book. And there was a seller. What kind of piqued my interest is the seller has one. He's from Mexico, and he has one for sale for $5,000. And I messaged him. I was like, "Why are you asking so much for this book?" And he sent me pictures of the interior. So then I saw this one pop up for $29. I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna pay $25 and check it out. So definitely it was worth $25, and it's a cool book. Here's the ASM 300 foil books, selling for $99 to $80. Pretty cool. These books look great in person. Definitely, fun books to have. So I showed you that low ASM 300 sale. Here's one that sold for $150, which I still think is pretty low, but this one must have been a little bit better condition, or it wasn't at auction. That might have been the difference, because this was the best price accepted. 9.8 Russian, sold for $188. These Russian books have been a pretty good financially for some of these sellers, because you could have ordered hundreds of them from Russia not that long ago, and a lot of them probably would come back 9.8, 9.6 to 9.8. So these people probably spent $5 to $10 on these books and are making good profit. But it's understandable now because the Russian market's completely turned off. So we'll see what happens with Russia, but I don't think we're gonna be seeing Marvel comics out of Russia anymore anytime soon. And this one was a very strong sale, $500 for the ASM 129 9.8. $46 for the ASM 300 raw. $227 for this What If Venom Deadpool 9.4, which is signed by Scotty Young. So it's a solid sale right there. $103 for ASM 129. Talked about that one already. Australian price variant. This one kind of went cheap, I thought. Is 361 first Carnage for 177. So being an Australian price variant, you would have thought it would sold for a lot more, but I didn't really look at the pictures too hard, so maybe it was kind of a lower grade book. We talked about that one. Newton, first appearance Mysterio with poster, sold for 126. Fantastic Four number 8 with poster. This was a real high sale for $450. That one seemed kind of crazy. Conan 1. This one doesn't include a poster. It says free poster on the cover, but it's a send away offer. And that one went really cheap for $70. This one was a crazy sale for me. This is Marvel Spotlight 5, the French edition that was printed in 1989. You can still find these all over like French eBay and other French marketplaces for like $3, $4. It just reprints like the first appearance of characters. So $85 seemed like a pretty strong sale. This is Avengers 196 from France, sold for $35. Looked like a pretty nice copy too. This one went pretty cheap, I thought. This is the first appearance of Flash. They didn't include anywhere that it was Showcase 4, so that definitely probably hurt their price. They definitely, I think, could have sold for more than $200, and their asking price was $776, and they took $200, so that was like way cheap. Here's one that says Showcase 4, and you can see, I'm not sure which one would be in better condition, but this one got $300, which even then, that still sounds pretty cheap because this is the only foreign comic that uses the original Showcase 4 cover. X-Men 266 from France, first appearance of Gambit, sold for $40. Tomb of Dracula 10, they were asking $1,500, and they accepted an offer of $600 Canadian. So that was they might have held out a little bit longer and got more money for that one. Let's see, Ultimate Fallout 4. So I showed you the low sales earlier, and here's one that sold for $220. So this book is just all over the place. Doctor Strange number 1 from Spain, sold for $50. It's a pretty solid sale on that book. Lois Lane 106 from Spain. There's actually two versions. There's the Spanish version from Navarro, and there's a Mexican, and then this is the Spanish price variant. They're printed in Mexico but sent to Spain, and sold for $50, which is actually, it looks like a nice condition, so it's a pretty good price. And then Fantastic Four 48, the Italian edition, sold for $285. Looks like a pretty high grade copy of that book, because those can be kind of tough to find and higher grade. And then these are some Russian auctions. Another reason I'm telling you to not do foreign auctions on eBay. $25 for the 361 and $15 for the 300. Those are super cheap. And that is it. I had kind of a lot to go through, so I kind of rushed through them. But hopefully we'll kind of just see what the market does over the next couple months. It might be a good buying opportunity. Could be maybe not the best time to sell, but there is that heritage auction coming up. So I think you can view a good portion of the books on their website now. It's kind of surprising. There aren't that many cool books in there, which is kind of weird. I thought it was going to be like, grail after grail of foreign comics, but there's kind of a lot of interesting books, but not quite what I was expecting. But hopefully they'll get some good traffic in there, and people will keep submitting some good foreign books, and we'll kind of see what happens with that. All right, have a good one. Bye.